Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.
Southern California's Inland Talk Express is KCAA.
Short-sighted for the lies I told you, but you stood tall when the glass was empty, and you low-key in the face.
Nice. What's going on? Back to Talkaholics. I'm your host, Jose C10 Covarrubias. Today's episode is going to be Silence is the New Luxury. What Thailand, Singapore taught me about freedom, money, and protecting your peace. So, again, today's episode will be a little bit different. It's not going to be just a travel episode. This episode is going to be more about perspective. Sometimes you just don't realize how blessed you are until you leave home. And this episode, we will be talking about that. Sometimes you just don't... Over the last couple weeks, I've had an opportunity to visit Thailand and Singapore and other amazing countries. Beautiful people, incredible food, efficient transportation, and safe streets. Sometimes we don't hear that on our own country, But it also came back realizing something. The United States, despite all of its problems, still gives us opportunities and freedoms that millions of people around the world simply don't have. And that, we will be talking about that today. We're also going to be talking about something else, why I stayed quiet, why I didn't post on my trip while I was traveling, why sometimes silence is your biggest superpower, and why not everybody deserves front row seats to your life. I guess this last part, it's going to be a very kind of like a personal thing. It was more like an experiment that I tried to do this time around because prior times that I've actually, traveled or gone to places, and then we started posting, me and my significant other, my spouse, we started posting stuff. Really bad things happened. It was quite interesting that, I don't know, you call it whatever you want to call it, like envy vibe or bad vibes or stuff like that. But a lot of things really started, going bad for us whenever we started posting our things. But anyways, one of the biggest mistakes people make in believing their city is the entire world is not traveling outside their own city or their own country. So travel destroys that illusion. You're being seen different governments, different cultures, different economies, and different priorities. You stop judging people based on only your own experience. Travel humbles you. You realize that this isn't one correct way to live, but you also begin appreciating things you once complained about. This happened a lot this trip, to be honest. Our first stop was in Thailand. We visited 3 beautiful cities. We visited Bangkok. We stayed there for a couple of days. Then we moved to Chiang Mai, and then the last one was Phuket. So all these 3 cities have very, unique, I guess, personalities. But in all honesty, I think that their culture is very. It just shows you more like a respect for it, right? That because regardless of whatever their government they have, the type of government, and all these things that they do, is that whenever anyone goes into their temples and stuff like that. The first thing that it's not even encourage. It's it's kind of like a given thing. They expect respect, right? And sometimes we don't even do those things in our own countries. But just remember, once you're in a different country, you are a guest. It's better just to keep it that way. But I really realized. When I was there in Thailand, at least, you take a lot of things for granted while you're in the States. And by I mean by that is some convenient things that you even do, a hot shower, AC. The biggest one was AC. It is very humid. For people that live in Florida, people who live in like Georgia and like those areas, it's very similar climate, I guess, but it is very different when it comes to the actual like the energy and all these things that they utilize or the lack of. Some of these Airbnbs that we stayed, it was interesting because I don't think I've ever got charged for utilizing electricity or water. So again, it makes you like realize that we do have a lot of things that it's like given to us. Yes, there's a cost for it, but they don't charge you. Like say like you go anywhere. Let's say you go to an Airbnb and they don't charge you. They're like, okay, we're gonna charge you for the room plus whatever how much water you used and then what electricity you used. So that was a big one. But it's honestly, perspective is priceless. Sometimes the best investment isn't one course; it's sometimes a plane ticket. And this time, that was it for us. So again, the first place that we went there, it was Thailand. It's called the Land of Smiles. So again, the people are very respectful. The food is everywhere. Street vendors are incredible. Public transportation is affordable, super affordable. I thought that Mexico, and then because I used to travel, I still travel a lot to Mexico, and I remember when the dollar was very heavy in Mexico, and then now that we traveled to Thailand, it's basically the same thing. It's the ratio I want to say is like 1 to 33 or 32 at the most. So public transportation is very affordable, but there's also things that you got to like look out for. There's these things called like tuk-tuks. So it's kind of like a mixture of like a cab and like like freelancers, right? So there's a lot of scams going on with things like that. But if you do not visit Thailand and you do not get into a tuk-tuk, you do not go to Thailand. That's the biggest thing. And again, their food is amazing. Just also being cognizant of where you're eating and then how they prepare the food, because that's like the one of the biggest things. Yes, there's a lot of like street vendors, but there's street vendors to street vendors. I remember I was walking these like these streets, and it was very cool because like you see the preparation of some of these things, or the lack of preparation of some of these vendors. So be wise about it. I guess the other thing too, that it was kind of like a big shock, is like the healthcare is significantly less expensive in these countries in comparison to America, right? The temples that we visited reminded us a lot to slow down. We as Americans, we like to live like on a schedule, like you're always hurrying up. Over there, it kind of like the whole city, the whole, I guess, whole environment just kind of like makes you slow things down and appreciate everything that appreciate life in general, because it's like one of the things that I did like a lot about the temples is like the attention to detail that they actually have. If you just pass a normal building, even here, sometimes you don't get to appreciate the beauty of them. And what I mean by that is that some of these temples that we were going to, they were all made out of either like glass, or they had something like to do with tile, but like very specific, cuts of tile, like very specifically, shapes and stuff like that. And they all were put, hand like one by one. So it's like, it makes you appreciate that, like they actually did something really nice, but yeah, they have their culture is very respectful. Again, I couldn't say that. I cannot say that. That I guess like every other country, there's places where if you're in the wrong place, you make a wrong turn, you might be in some trouble. But even like in like the temple stuff like that, they would even warn you about like like pickpocketers and stuff like that, which was quite interesting. But overall, I don't think we saw, that many, like cops or like stuff like that. It was quite interesting that the time that we traveled in Thailand. We were there about 10 days. But things like I said that they were asking us to do. It was like, more like a respect thing. Is like, remove your shoes when you go into certain places, dress appropriately at temples. So I think that was like one of the biggest things too. Is like they do respect obviously their religion, so it's like they expect for tourists to obey these rules, and if you don't obey them, it's like they refuse service to you, or they sell you stuff to basically be in compliance with it. One of the biggest things is like for males and females is that covering up your shoulders. It was one of the biggest things too. It was like they wanted you to cover up your shoulders. They would sell you T-shirts to do that as well. Like you had to cover your knees. When it comes to like the shoes and everything, that really didn't matter because you're gonna have to remove your shoes once you get to a certain place. But it was more of like a respect thing. We tried some we tried to do some like the pictures in some of the temples, which was interesting because the people that were you can dress up, but the people that were actually dressed up, they had their shoulders visible, which was kind of interesting. And I did ask them, what's the difference, and they literally said, "You're not beautiful enough." If you didn't have that, you're not beautiful enough. And I was like, okay. So it just, like I said, it's kind of like a culture thing, and obviously, we were respectful about it. We were not going to be like, well, if they're doing it, I'm doing it too. So it's like, no, it was not like that. But it was quite eye opening. Some tips that I would give for people that are trying to travel to Thailand is if you do have a credit union. One of the biggest things, well, before you anticipate going to Thailand, look up if you're going to Airbnbs or going to hotels, whatever it is. Look up and ask them, obviously, if they're going to be charging you for when it comes to the services, additional services, not just like the booking, but ask them if they're going to charge you for electricity, if they're going to charge you for water and all these things. And then obviously do your research according to that area, how much they charge normally, because for us, they try to charge us like 3 times the rate that they normally charge a person that lives there. So just be cognizant about those things. What we did do is that we did order some cash ahead of time before we travel there. That way, whenever we get there, we at least had some money. That way, we can utilize it there. But that's a very good one too. And then there's a couple applications that you guys can use in Thailand. Grab will be one of the biggest ones. Grab and Bolt, and that is spelled Bolt. It's usually if you want to put a comparison, it's kind of like having Uber and Lyft. So the Bolt one is more of like a Lyft, and then Grab is more like Uber, and they're actually connected in Thailand. So and the reason why I'm saying it's more like Uber is because Grab, you can also do like meals. If you don't want to leave like your area, you can actually order some food and they'll drop it off at your location. But that'll be a big one too. And then obviously respect the monarchy and religion. Avoid making disrespectful comments. Again, you are a guest. Act like one. The same way that we don't like people, coming to our country and then, saying all these, crazy things about our stuff too, is like do the same thing. Act or treat people the same way that how you wanted to be treated in your own country. So respect again, the rules there. One of the other biggest things too is like stay hydrated. So I don't know what's something with the water, and I know that we always hear this stuff in other countries too. Like I would always hear this before in Mexico, like don't drink the water. It's very similar in Thailand. One of the biggest thing is like I guess they purify the water so much that they remove every like mineral and stuff like that. So regardless of how much water you're drinking, you're not that hydrated there. So they do have these things in the 7-Elevens. So there is about one 7-Eleven for each corner street that you're gonna find in Thailand. It's one of the biggest things too. It's so crazy, but the 7-Elevens that you see in Thailand are nothing alike like the ones that we have in the States. They do have all these extra drinks and like like they have like cosmetics. They have all these other things especially because like there's like Korea there close by, so they have a lot of things that you don't see at a normal 7-Eleven here. It's more like a Walmart for them, but they have these drinks. If you guys want to research these things too, is like some very cool drinks that you can like mix. I'm gonna be posting some in my food channel. If you guys are following me, if you guys don't not following me, you guys can follow me at Eat More Jose, or you can just follow me also on my Instagram is More Ways Jose, and I have my blog there when it comes to eating. As you can see, I did gain some weight more, but yeah, it's awesome, man. I highly recommend you guys, traveling at least once to Thailand. Don't underestimate the heat. And what I mean by that is that one of the big recommendations that I will give you guys is travel very light. And I mean that in the whole word, like, the whole meaning of the word. Light when it comes to like, how much clothes you're taking, and light when it comes to the type of clothes you're taking. So jeans or something that there's not that more like porous, or it's not like breathable, avoid that at all costs because you will suffer. And I say that because I messed up. I thought that I was like, oh man, yeah, I'll take some jeans, why not? Heck no. I think this is the first time, and this is going to be like a funny thing too, because the washing machines that they have there, like they have one that is like like a 2-in-1, like they do the washing and the drying. Yeah, that didn't work out for me. So my clothes was like very stinky, and that I messed up, and I used that stinky clothes, and then I was the one stinky. So it was pretty bad. I couldn't even take it myself, so I had to buy clothes, and then in between the one store and another, I had to switch because I could not support my own smell. It was that bad. So but yeah, again, try local foods. Obviously, like I said, use common sense. If you see it that it's not sanitary, just stay away from it. There's a lot of restaurants. And majority of restaurants, and even like food vendors, street vendors, I'm sorry, they accept cards, but again, if cash is your thing, play it safe. If you do not want to use your card for any reason, still, take that into consideration, right? When it comes to your shoes, yeah, again, travel light. I messed up and I took 4 pairs of shoes and I just only used 2. And I was just carrying everything everywhere. So just light. Trust me, there is a lot of commerce over there. There's a lot of things that are very affordable. So you can buy things that you cannot imagine for like a fraction of a price that we would get it here in the US. But yeah, that was kind of like one of the biggest things that I would take from this trip to Thailand. So again, remember, hydrate, and then not just hydrate with just like water. Add some electrolytes. They sell package of electrolytes in the 7-Elevens. Download the apps. Have all your like cash available. Make sure that you have a plan. Travel in groups. I think that's one of the biggest things too as well. Travel in groups. Don't travel by yourself. I know that sometimes, I even have friends that are like solo travelers. That's cool. But like, when it comes to stuff like this, it's better to go with a group of people because it does help, even when we were like in temples and stuff like that, you wouldn't see a lot of people approaching us at all. So it was pretty cool. But that's how also they work too. Like, pickpocketers, they target people that are either by themselves or that are very distracted. So stay alert. Do be precautious of what you're doing in Thailand, and then enjoy. There's some beautiful places. There's some very affordable places too. Like, we went to some expeditions. We went to some like little tours that we had for a low price of $40 US dollars for all these things. It was 2 days, and like, we experienced a lot of temples. We did a lot of like hiking. We saw some like, elephants, all these things too. Obviously, we didn't, partake in things that were not good, but we had fun. We enjoyed ourselves, and yeah, that was the trip to Thailand, and then after that we went to Singapore, and that there was a shocker because we went from Thailand, which was very affordable, to Singapore, which was, man, it's another U.S., right? I'm not gonna say another U.S. when it comes to like the actual, everything else, but I guess when it comes to like, monetary stuff, it is very compared. It's a good comparison, right? So, one of the things that I was very shocked was that Singapore is very clean, super clean, but there's like a catch to all this, right? So in Singapore, everything works. Transportation, public safety, infrastructures, rules are taking very, and I mean this, very, very, very serious. And because they're taking very serious, people generally follow them. They take it so serious that they fine you for almost everything and anything that is not, that is against whatever they believe. So one of the biggest things too that I was kind of like surprised. And again, do your research before you go to any of these countries. Singapore, you cannot bring chewing gum, so they'll fine you for chewing gum. They'll fine you for basically if they see you spitting. They'll fine you if you, I mean, even here in the U.S., if you do like jaywalking, but over there it's a very hefty fine. And the biggest thing about their stuff is that they are, and I'm not going to say controlled, but they have a lot of reinforcement tools. And I mean by that is a lot of cameras. And they use facial recognition as one of their tools. So if you do something, you might expect a bill coming to your way. Another thing too that I was like so shocked whenever we got to Singapore was whenever our taxi or our Uber or our Grab in this case, there is a no wait time. Like you legitimately, they cannot wait for you. And this was like interesting to me because they take it so serious. Like they tell you, like if they get there and they have to wait less than like 30 seconds, they'll leave and they'll cancel your trip. And the reason why they do that is because they get fined. So, and it's like, I want to say it's like 1,000 Singapore dollars, which is roughly 700 US dollars, something like that. But yeah, imagine you guys, if that were to happen here in the US, all the people they would get fined in LAX, in Ontario Airport, on all these airports where people literally just stay there and they wait until their family member arrives. Like imagine how much money the government will make from us. So, that's something, again, perspective, right? Be appreciative of what we have, that we take it for granted. That was one of the biggest things too. So, that was like the good part of it. Safety is another one that, again, because everyone is watching or you're being watched everywhere, things are taken very serious. We were very surprised because we would see a lot of people past 11 p.m. on the streets, walking, by themselves, doing all these things. And it was pretty cool because it's like, you do have a sense of like, safety, but, it comes also to a price, right? Because, yes, you do have those things, and it's kind of rare to see some of those things here in the U.S., especially like, in certain neighborhoods, certain like, cities and stuff like that. So it's like super rare, but it has a price, right? So we use the public transportation. So one of the tips that I will give you guys is, once you get to Singapore, if you are staying 3 days or more, or even if you're staying whatever days that you're staying, but if you're staying 3 days or more, they have this tourist pass. This tourist pass gives you or allows you to go and utilize public transportation unlimited times. You pay only 29 Singapore dollars, and it basically lets you use the transportation unlimited for 3 days, and it's literally starts at at midnight and it ends at midnight. So it's like 3 days, full days. This is very helpful because you would rather use public transportation other than using like Grab or Uber, whatever it is, right? And the reason why we're saying this is because depending if you're in a group, if you're like solo, it might be even better. It might be more affordable. But like for us, we were traveling 5 of us, so it was a little bit more expensive because we were kind of like an odd number. So majority of the times we had to get always a bigger vehicle, because if we were to just travel 4 of us, it would have been perfect. It would have been a normal vehicle, but we had to travel always on a XL vehicle. So the amounts that we had to pay was just a little bit more, a little bit higher, right? But yeah, that card, it's kind of cool. We have the same thing here in the U.S. Like when like the bus passes and stuff like that. The biggest difference is that the ones that they have, you can utilize the buses and you can utilize the actual trains as well. And then everything is connected. Everything is connected. Your biggest friend is going to be either Google Maps or Maps if you have like iPhones and stuff like that. So utilize that to your advantage. It will tell you exactly at what time the metro, or at what time the actual the bus will arrive. It tells you what bus to take, all these things. It was a fun experience. After the 3 days, it expires, but you can top it up. And by that means is that you can actually use it kind of like a debit card. So you would put money into it, and it obviously it's just utilized only for the MRT, which is the train stations, and then obviously for the buses. So that's kind of like one of the biggest advices that I can give you guys. And then one of the other things too that I would suggest is that when you are traveling to Singapore, check the Airbnbs, check like the hotels or whatever it is. It's very similar to the U.S. The biggest thing is that, like for us, we were trying to find affordable things because we were trying just to enjoy the actual location. We were not like, okay, we didn't care if it was like, obviously we didn't stay at a hostel, but we wanted some type of privacy, right? First we were like, man, did we just like, how come there's not a lot of Airbnbs? Well, we came to find out that it's because of the housing. So their housing, it's very interesting. Interesting because it's incredibly expensive for a space. So many residents live in apartments developed through the government housing program. So we were told by one of the people that was our Grab driver that it's like they enter into this kind of like a lottery system, something that we do not have. We actually have the ability to if we want to buy a property or real estate, we can, if you have the means to do so. So in I guess in their country, like families sometimes spend years waiting for a certain housing opportunity. The land is extremely limited, and because it is limited, it has a bunch of restrictions. So in order for you to even get a house, you have to go into a kind of like in a sense, kind of like a raffle. And then after that, there's like two. There's like, public, and there is private. Both of them are, in a sense, for me, they look like condos. But the biggest difference is that the public one is obviously provided by the government, and then the private one, which is also provided by the government, but it's gated. The biggest difference is gated community. One of the things that I was like very shocked about, and then I kind of looked into it, was that for the housing for them, besides only, going into this lottery system and all this stuff too, is like, let's say that anyone, well, first off, you have to be from Singapore in order for you to actually be able to be eligible for this. If you come from another country or stuff like that, it is super or extremely hard for you to get a property. And again, because they're trying to limit as well the population in certain areas, right? So the other stuff that it was kind of interesting to us was that if, let's say, your family has a house and then, you grow up and then you move out, you have enough money to get your own property. So what we were told is that if you are married, you qualified, because I guess two incomes will qualify to actually, obtain a house. The housing mortgage for there is 99 years. 99 years for Singapore. And we were thinking here in the U.S. that they were trying to pass the 50-year one and the 100-year one, and that was crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. The other thing too is that if let's say your parents already have a property, you have a property, and then all of a sudden your parents pass away, or when your parents pass away, they want to inherit you that property. Guess what? You can't keep it. You either have to sell that property or the one that you currently own. So you're limited to having only one property. So it sucks because it's like they even told us, right? They're like, the government doesn't want you to be landlord, doesn't want you to have that many properties. So that makes sense now whenever we were trying to look for Airbnbs, because all the ones that we were looking at were hotels. Every single one of them. So now it makes sense because there's no landlords. So either you live in a house and then that's the only one that you have. Either you're going to have to share a house with complete strangers, which will be pretty crazy, knowing now that, it's a very strict country. But yeah, that was a very crazy perspective, change of perspective, to the U.S. Again, U.S., if you want to buy a property, I don't know, 2,000 square feet, that can never happen in Singapore. A 2,000 square feet house in Singapore will be almost unobtainable unless you come from, a wealthy family and stuff like that. But yeah, that was kind of like a shocker. The other one too was that cars, the ownership of having a car. So you have the same thing. It's very similar to like the housing. You will go into a pool system, and then basically for what I remember, I think they were saying that it was like every quarter, throughout the year, every quarter you get to try to, I guess, bid for the right to have a vehicle, not a license, just the right to have a vehicle. And that is called the certificate of entitlement, COE. If you guys want to look it up later on, COE for Singapore, and it's roughly 100,000 Singapore dollars, which is equivalent of around $60,000 to $70,000, just the right to have a vehicle. What's crazy about this is not just that, is that on top of what a vehicle cost. So a average vehicle in Singapore, for what we were told, is roughly from like $60,000 or 60 Singapore dollars to like about 100,000. So you're talking about almost 120,000 US dollars to have the right to have a vehicle, and then for you to own a vehicle. You're talking about, in some locations in the US, a house. The price of a house. The biggest thing about this is that it is limited to 10 years. So yes, you started the process, you have a vehicle, you're still paying your insurance for it. You're still paying for gas. You're still paying for registrations. You're still paying for all these things. And then in 10 years, they basically tell you, do you want to renew it? If you say yes, give me the money. Same amount. They don't give you a discount. If you say no, basically you're giving back the right to own a vehicle. How crazy is that? Again, we don't have that here. You know, if you can afford a vehicle, come on. How many times you're driving on the road and you even see like, you know, a freshly 18-year-old with a beat up car, and then they're like, I just got my license. Like kind of like right now, my niece, she's seen in our live TikTok, she just got her license. Let's say she gets a vehicle, it's $2,000. Imagine if that she had to pay $120,000 in order for her to have the right to have a car and a car. How crazy is that? So that put me again into a lot of perspective. Like, you know, we have a lot of things that we really take for granted. A lot of things. So sometimes we complain about like, oh man, you know, the cost of our gas prices. And don't get me wrong, I complain about that too because I have a gas vehicle, you know. But like, you know, registration, insurance, parking, fuel, everything. And then you go to a different country where all that is very limited, and you're like, wow, maybe I shouldn't complain, you know? Or maybe I should, you know, take it into consideration that other places have it. Yes, they might be more beautiful than our country in certain areas or in certain aspects, but they're very limited in some other stuff too, you know? Again, I have like Citlali over here saying that I am a broke college student. Yeah, imagine that. You know, if you're a broke college student and then they tell you, you want a vehicle, $120,000. Take it or leave it. So that's why we saw a lot of people utilizing public transportation. But because a lot of people use public transportation, it is very well taken care of in Singapore, very affordable for it. And the reason why they do that and they keep it is because they try to discourage as well, you know, I guess the overconsumption of, you know, obtaining those vehicles. You know, here in the U.S. they overproduce, and we know that. You know, there's probably like 2 or 3 cars per person in the U.S. and over there it's like, you know, very limited. So it's like it's pretty cool. In a sense, it's cool, but in a sense, it kind of sucks because again, you're overpaying for something that, you know, you have to pay for the right to own it. You know, we don't do that here. So it's like, you know, it's a very different, like, you know, point of view, point of perspective. You know, you kind of sometimes, you know, with that being said, you kind of appreciate even like traffic here. You're like, man, over here, like we have traffic. There's no traffic in Singapore. And if there is, it's like, you know, 0.5 seconds and it's done. You know, DMV lines. I'd rather go in a DMV line for 2 or 3 hours than to wait years and then for them to tell me like, oh yeah, you know, your bid for $68,000. Yeah, better luck next time. You have to, you know, up it up. How about now $70,000? Yeah, no, I'm good. So that leads me to my last segment, right? So why I stayed quiet for this trip. So it's a little more personal for this one. For the people that do follow me, the people that are, you know, my family members or like, you know, people that are my friends, they probably noticed that I didn't post anything. And I didn't want to mention anything to anyone because, like I said at the beginning, I usually like to post stuff. I want to be the small influencer. And this time I actually stayed quiet. I enjoyed the trip. I didn't put any like airport stories, no daily updates, no like look where I'm at, nothing like that, you know. And it was very intentional, simply because I got to enjoy my trip. There was a lot of things, like I said, that I wished before that I did, And then this time I actually, did it. I didn't post, and it felt different. I feel like a lot of things that because and it was very interesting, because the other people that were with us in our trip, they were posting stuff and like, which is cool. Again, to each its own, right? But one of them like all of a sudden got like like stomach ache and stuff like that, and it was interesting because we were all eating this exact same thing. We all had everything the same, so it's like, what happened? Call it whatever it is, negative energy, um, judgment. It's just crazy, right? Because um, you get to realize that not everybody that watches you is cheering for you. Some people celebrate your success, others compare, others judge. A lot of people judge. Others become resentful, whether you want to call it, like I said, envy, negative energy, or simply unnecessary attention. It exists, So that's why this time I honestly didn't want to post anything. I didn't want I wanted just to. I did post some of the stuff, like a normal thing that I would always do, either like a certain quote or stuff like that. But I did not post anything where I was going until now. Today, I'm start posting everything that happened. And again, it's a personal thing. I actually enjoy this trip way more than previous one. Not that I didn't have enjoyed my previous trips, but it's like it went a lot smoother. It went a lot smoother. I got to enjoy a lot more. But just remember, the more opportunities there are for someone to interfere, whether that's be like criticizing, gossiping, or even targeting you, your home because they know that you're away. It's like just food for thought. But yeah, silence removes all of that. I kind of realized, that by me not posting, that doesn't mean that I did not record anything, that I did not take pictures, that I did not do all these things that I normally do, or did. Right? I did all these things too, but again, I didn't post them, and I guess it was more like I didn't need validation. I was just like, yeah, I'll post it when I post it. People that are going to be happy for your travels, they're going to be happy, whether that be today, whether that be if they're seeing it live, or whether that be in 2 weeks. They're still, if people that care for you, they're still going to cheer for you. They're still going to be like, hey, glad you enjoyed. Kind of like right now, Eric, he was like, did you enjoy your trip? Heck, I did. Right? So it's like, he didn't know anything about me for 2 weeks. And it's like, it's good, man. I guess like, it's just keeping it, I guess to yourself for in certain areas, but it doesn't affect you, or I should say, it did affect us in a positive way to keep it to ourselves. And again, this goes for, I guess, for a lot of things, right? Protecting your peace, I guess. And like I said, it goes for a lot of things. When people, social media is or has trained us to announce everything, every single thing. Oh yeah, I'm starting a new business. I'm investing in this. I just got my new house. I'm getting married. I'm traveling. Blah 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 blah. Yes, it's cool, but again, remind you guys, not everyone is cheering. Not everyone is, looking at what you're doing to be happy for you. So that's why, keep that in mind. Just do it. Then talk about it. Once it's done, once it's established, once it's over, talk about it. That is my 2 cents. Again, not because of like silence is magical or stuff like that, but because it just gives unnecessary attention to other things that you might, Oh yeah. See, like I have Mr. Life Planner in TikTok. It says realtors always posting everything. That is so true, right? But again, and I've seen this, day in and day out, for especially for female realtors. And then, any female realtors that are, listening to us, I've heard like so many horror stories because they post everything, right? But it's not that, I mean, that's their business, right? They're posting because they're trying to sell, because they're trying to do this. But you sometimes get the unnecessary attention for, there's creep guys out there, or girls too, where they might be like, okay, now I know where you're at. So, so again, stay safe. Yes, it's not bad to post what you're doing, but it helps when you do it and when you post after it happens. Why? For safety reasons. One of the funny parts that I started doing also was because of like the food channel, right? The food things that I post. People were thinking, they're like, man, this guy travels like, one day he's in Hawaii and the other day he's in like, Georgia. Like, how the heck does he do it? And then like my father-in-law, he's like, man, he posts everything about what he eats, and I was like, well, I mean, everyone eats, I just post the good stuff, everyone eats. But it's true, it's like, I again, all those videos, majority of them, I posted them after it happened, not during, because again, same thing. I did the mistake at the beginning to post like, before I was going to a place, and then I don't know, all of a sudden I would eat something and then like my stomach was like I was feeling bad. So I don't know, like people would like, bad juju on me. So, joke's on you. But anyways, just I guess just to remind you guys, the fewer people that are involved, the fewer opinions, the fewer distractions, the fewer opportunities for unnecessary conflict to occur. So again, not everybody deserves access to your plans. Some people have earned front row seats. For that, I can testify to that. Not everyone that is in your, I can say in your team, not everyone is in your team. They might be even like, cheering for somebody else. But again, just know who you share that information with. People that must know where you're at, cool, share it. I guess like even like for me, right? The people that knew were my parents, and even like sometimes it's like, it's not that you don't want like say like your coworkers to know where you're at, but let's say when they would ask me like, oh, where you're at, traveling, right? Not because of them, but sometimes because other people are listening to it, and you don't want to drag that attention because again, things happen, and it's just like just to let you guys know, privacy isn't like secrecy, but privacy is more like protection. And I guess that's one of the biggest lessons that I learned in this trip. It was that to keep it private until it happened, and then after that, if you want to share it, share it. Like the little meme or the little video. Si quieres venir, venir. If you want to share it, share it. That's on you. But I guess like again, this trip just reminded me a lot of things. To travel more, enjoy more, enjoy the people that you're traveling with. Honestly, and select well. Because sometimes you do it for like convenience, you do it for stuff like that, or like actually travel with people that you care about and they care about you, because that will make a whole of a lot of difference, on the experiences that you're gonna have and all the things that you're gonna be enjoying or not enjoying. So again, it's experience different countries. Respect every country that you visit. Stop assuming that the U.S. is the center of everything. But also, don't forget how many people and how many opportunities you have here. Learn how to, appreciate what you have. And again, the only way to appreciate what you have is going to another country. And I'm not going to say it's a third world country or stuff like that. Just visit other countries. and experiment it for yourself. You will see the biggest difference. You know, in other countries, you can't start a business. In other countries, you cannot build wealth. You know, just in other countries, again, vehicles are limited ownership. The opportunity to even have a vehicle. And finally, you know, stop trying to impress everybody. You know, the people that are going to be impressed, they're going to be impressed regardless. You know, the people that are going to care for you, they're going to care for you regardless if you posted today, yesterday, or if you're going to post it in like 2 years. You know, and that's going to just keep you give you a big peace of mind, peace of mind. I hope this episode made you think a little bit different. Travel if you can. Learn more from every culture that you're trying to go visit. Bring those lessons back home. Be grateful for what you have. Protect your peace. Move quietly. And let your results make the noise. Honestly, I'm going to start doing this way more often, where I'm not posting it as it's happening. And just make sure you guys have a plan for everything, right? There was some stuff that happened, obviously, when we were away. And don't just have a plan. Just make sure that you are aware of your surroundings. Take care of your people. And then, you know, have fun. Well, this has been Talkaholics. I am Jose C10 Covarrubias. We'll catch you on the next one. And until next time, travel smart, stay humble, stay grateful, and remember, the loudest success usually comes from the quietest preparation. Until next time.
Short-sighted for the lies I told you.